Hello and welcome to another video tutorial Monday. This week I'll be working with some printable images that are available from Papertrey Ink. They're having their 4th anniversary celebration right now, so you can actually go to Nicole Hetty's blog and just print these off. I'll have the link to them in the subbar. Anyways, so they're kind of having a challenge right now to create a card using one or more of these images. And I actually just made one for my Sunday post yesterday, so that would be February the 6th, using this heart one. So I wanted to do another one for my video tutorial Monday this week. You'll be able to see this on my blog on that February 6th post. So this is just on type paper, but I printed them out on vintage cream cardstock. And then I just went through and I used my third biggest circle for my nestabilities. This is the Standard Circles Large. And I just laid it around the image, taped it down with some washi tape, and then ran it through my die cut machine. And that's because I don't have a 3/4 inch punch. So that's a good way to get around it. You end up with more of a border around it, since this is about, I believe it's 1 7/8. So you get an extra little border around it, but you know, it still looks nice. So, and it's a perfect way to get them centered. Also, I also brought out my Limitless Layers 1 3/4 inches die collection, because originally I was trying to cut out the images with my circle die, but it doesn't quite work because you have to line it up perfectly, and this isn't see-through, so that's why I use my nestabilities. But these are great for layering, and even this size works very well with them. So I'm going to be using those on my card. And what I've decided is I really love this image from Allie Miles. And so that's the one I'm going to be using. And I decided that I want to do the color scheme of kind of a purple, blue, green one. I don't know if that's because I just did a red, yellow, orange one, but kind of the opposite. But I wanted to do that. So I'm going to color in this flower with my Copics, and these are V06, V01, and V09. And I'm going to start out with my lightest color first, and I'll probably speed this up so you can see it. Okay, now I have my image colored with the purples. I went a little bit outside here, so I'm just going to go back and push the color in with my colorless blender. The nice part about doing really light colors on the outside is the colorless blender takes them away very, very easily. It's just beautiful. So I have this image colored. Now I think what I'm going to do is, instead of making this circle another color, I'm just going to use this T3 gray, and this is the wrong end, and color around this ring. Okay, so I have my image colored, and I think this is just gorgeous. I'm so in love with this flower, so I definitely hope Allie designs more of a stamp set to go with this, because it's just lovely. Then next, I've decided I'm going with the Cool Colors color scheme. So I have this Aqua Mist card stack that I just folded into a standard size card. And then I'm just going to figure out what else I want to do with it. So I've cut this piece out of Spring Moss cardstock, and now I'm going to run it through my this folder from Provocraft. It's a peacock feather one, and I think it'll look really cute with this flower image. So I've embossed this piece of paper. I'm going to be using the deboss side because I think it looks a little bit prettier. And I might distress the edges just a little bit, but you have to be kind of careful because even though Papertrey Ink cardstock is very, very thick and high quality, when you run it through an embossing machine with an embossing folder, it gets very, very fragile since it kind of distorts the fibers. So you just have to be kind of careful so you don't rip it. Okay, so I distressed the edges. Now what I'm going to do is add some peeled paint, distressing around the edges, just define the edges. I'm just going to rub the Shabby Shutters ink over this Spring Moss cardstock to add to that texture. And that's a super easy way to kind of bring out that texture, really make it shine. Now I'm actually going to take this lunch tray mist from Papertrey, or from Studio Calico, and spritz it on, kind of adding to that whole funky look that we have going on. And some of it will absorb into the cardstock, but it adds this nice texture to it. So I'm just going to let this dry for a second, and then I'll be right back. I just blasted this with a heat gun a little bit to kind of finish drying it off. It's still a little bit damp, but it'll be fine to kind of handle and put on the card now. I'm just going to go back and add a little bit more peeled paint to the edges. And now I think it's ready to adhere to my card, so I'm just going to use my ATG. Now that I have my background adhered to my card, I have my image, and I'm going to use this piece because it kind of goes along with the sharp edges of the peacock feathers, and I'm just going to cut out this in some Simply Chartreuse cardstock. I have this cut out, and now I can ink the edges a little bit to add some more definition to the edges. I inked the edges of this really well. Notice I was very liberal with the ink there because I wanted it to really show up. And I'm just going to go around the edge of this, the colored image, just kind of carefully, and adhere it down to the circle using some dimensional adhesive. So what I want to do, before I adhere this cool little colored image onto the card, I'm going to add some Aqua Mist ribbon. I want it to go vertically across this, and I think I'm going to tie it in a bow. I've added my little bow, and it's not adhered in any way, so I can still move it around if I need to. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to end up on the card yet, but I know it's in this general area. And then I have this flower image, and then the sentiment I want to use for this card is from the Signature Series Butterfly Stamp Set by Don McVeigh, and I want to use the Bloom and Grow Forever sentiment, because I think that just works so well with this adorable flower image. I've stamped my sentiment, and that'll fit pretty well right about here. I'm going to ink up the edges a little bit with some tumbled glass and kind of distress them with my distressing tool again, and to make it blend in with the card. So now I have my sentiment strip, and I can just arrange the things on my card the way I want them. I believe that this is going to go down here, so it's right by my sentiment. I'm going to use the rule of thirds here, so the bow is going to be about 1/3 up, just to match the sentiment, and that'll go there, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere that down. Right in the middle of this kind of square that's left over. Just going to use some ATG there. There we go. And I feel like this needs a finishing touch. So what I'm actually going to do is to stitch around this entire green area with some vintage cream, or just some regular cream thread. And I'm actually going to go through the ribbon to kind of just tie everything together. So I'm going to start by piercing my holes. Now I'm just going to use a needle and some thread to stitch around the whole thing, and I'll be back in a second to show you what it looks like. So I've stitched around the whole card, and I think all I need is a little bit of ink around the edges. This is tumbled glass. And I think I'm done for the week. So thank you very much for watching, and here's a finished shot of the card and a close-up. And I'll have links to the PDF that you can download that has these images in it. They're beautiful. You should definitely try making something with them. So thank you for stopping by, and I'll catch you again next week.